you?
It depends what you mean by choreography.
Well, what do you mean by choreography? You do choreography with your work, or do you not consider it that?
Well, I suppose in terms of visual things fitting together and moving around, I guess that's choreography.
Yeah.
So I suppose to that extent, I am a choreographer, though I cannot dance.
I think what you do with your head and some of these videos is choreography. I mean, those are all planned out. Every move is programmed out, right, and thought about in advance.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, the main thing to get together is the kind of locations for filming, and then the way that they'll fit together kind of comes spontaneously. Sometimes you sort of see, well, this is going here, these are going to gel, these aren't going to gel, and you know, you're kind of spontaneous with that. Yeah.
Where do you start then with these things? Because a lot of them seem like they're vocal based for you, and they start in your head. You talked about having a room that you've had since you were a kid, where you just kind of your playroom, and now you got all your equipment and stuff.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I've got a room under my bedroom. It's kind of it's a really fun room actually, just because it's
under.
My bedroom's on the second floor. It's not kind of like some outlandish basement area, but it's cool. It's filled to the brim with instruments. I've got like a passion just for collecting instruments, so that's cool.
You have a basic instrument you start with. You were talking about maybe piano because.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the piano is the harmonic paradise. I mean, there's the harmonies in the piano. Most of harmonies in the piano. So, you know, as far as harmony is concerned, the piano is a good place to start.
Yeah. What about a synthesizer? Is it more piano itself, or is it more keyboard with a lot of thousands of sounds in there?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, a piano I enjoy just because it's real. I like real things. Real things are really, really great. They're kind of underrated at the moment. Yeah. Synthesizers are really fun, though. I've kind of got into them. I'm not one of these freakish synth designers yet, though I've kind of delved a little bit into that. But I enjoy the acoustic piano vibe just because it's kind of real. Yeah.
So talk about maybe one of your latest projects. Where did it start? Was it just some riff you had in your head, and you sit down in front of your rig and you lay it down as a vocal thing?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it kind of mixes and matches up. Sometimes I get a groove in my mind, and then I'll seek to replicate the groove in the music room. And every single time, pretty much, when I begin this process, it will change it up. You know, it shifts. It changes. You know, the format changes, the sounds change, the structure comes together kind of organically. I try not to contrive too much stuff. You know.
Right. You're beatboxing a lot. You're doing stuff with your mouth. You're doing percussion. You're doing a session in here with Dominick Farinacci and Tommy LiPuma and Steve Gadd, right?
Yeah.
And you laid a track down last night at like 3 a.m.
Oh, yeah,
and you're doing you're doing all kind of percussion, doing everything.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's cool to think about sound in this kind of orchestral way. Just because you know, if I say I'm a singer and I only sing. Then that's kind of just looking down one road. But then if you think I'm a singer, but I'm also like a musician, then I guess you're thinking about trying other stuff out, and I find that exciting. You know.
So you're studying at the Royal Academy of Music in London. What are you? How could somebody like you, who does everything like this, possibly pick a course of study? I mean, what did they do with you when you came to do your audition?
Oh man, I mean, so at the academy there's a jazz course, and I'm studying jazz piano there, which is fun, you know, because it means we learn tunes, we learn about improvising, we learn about accompaniment, we learn about, you know, music in general, I think, and rhythm and things like this. So it's kind of like a big collage of things. I think the whole idea with education is that you kind of take what you'd like to get from it, instead of just sit there and absorb the kind of the gurgitation from somebody or another. But I think that's what the most powerful thing about education is that you can go in and say, hey, I'm checking out this now, and it's for me, it's not for you, you know.
Right. So you're going back to the basics in terms of music theory and how to create chords on the piano for jazz, and you have a real background. You've done a lot of videos of traditional jazz arrangements, right?
Yeah, I mean, jazz standards are some of the greatest songs ever written, sort of thing. So yeah, as far as that's concerned, I think it's cool to go back there. It's also nice to look forward, you know, to think about harmony, not in terms of it being limited to jazz, just as harmony is a universe of its own. So I find that's like one of the best things in the world for me, is to experiment with harmony with traditional tunes.
What's it like to collaborate? I saw you in here. You brought these tracks in that you worked on last night. You play them for Dominick and Tommy, and you work with Steve Gadd on putting a track to it.
That's right.
But normally you're sitting around literally in your bedroom or under your bedroom, and and you're not really collaborating much. So is that kind of a new thing for you?
Well, it's not so much a new thing. It's just a different process. I mean, you know, I play in people's bands. You know, I play gigs with people, and that's really fun. When it comes to production, as you say, I'm very used to working alone. These guys are just ridiculous. You know, you've got Steve Gadd in the studio. It's really inspiring to see him at work, you know, and you see, I brought this groove in, and he says, well, you know, there's this thing, he said, I'm hearing this kind of thing on it, and I just sort of said, hey man, go do it. You have to trust the musicians around you. It's one of the most essential parts, I think, of collaborating.
And you have to leave some holes for them. You know, you got so many things in your head, right? You got all the parts, and by the time you come in, there's like the other guys are going, it sounds good to me. I don't know what I could do for this.
Yeah, I mean, there is that thing of leaving space. You know, I think space is kind of underrated. When you're alone, it's really tempting just to go all out. It's kind of a lesson in itself, just to think about just leaving space for other guys to play and that kind of thing. Yeah.
So what's next for you? You putting out a release finally after all these? You got millions of followers on YouTube. I mean, what's a record company do with you? I mean, how do they offer you anything?
Yeah, well, I mean that's an interesting question. I mean, arguably the record deal format is one to be questioned these days, just because the power's in the artist's hands, you know, instead of the record label's hands. But the plan is to make a record over the next couple of years, launch it, and then, you know, hopefully find a way to play this thing live. I'm building a solo live show. With a whole bunch of people and equipment, which is dead exciting. I'm very, very thrilled about it. So we got to wait and see about that. Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of video involved as well, I'm sure, because you are as much a video producer as you are a musician in a way, right? Do you consider it that way?
In some ways. I mean, for me, the music's definitely first. I mean, as far as the video is concerned, I try and just basically show what's going on. You know, so we got something happening over here, and you know, something happening over here, and your eye can follow around what's happening. If I can get the video together by this summer, that will be pretty crazy. I mean, it takes a bit of a while to do it. But the goal for this summer is to get a live show wherein I can simply play and create spontaneous music without being tied to things like video. But I mean, that's obviously a bonus. I'd love to get that.
And there's ways to sync things up live and trigger things so you can actually use video while you play. You going to have other musicians with you, or is this going to be like a solo one-man kind of thing?
Well, I mean, I think it's going to be a mixture, you know. I mean, the solo one-man thing is obviously something I'm used to. It's a format I'm used to. But there's a vibe you get with playing with other people that you just can't get on your own in a live setting. So that's definitely something I'm thinking about, you know, getting a band and getting the solo thing going and mixing them all up.
Listen, thanks for taking a few moments here. It was just such a pleasure listening to you talk earlier and watching you work here. Good luck with your career. Come back to Cleveland.
I will. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Cheers, man.
Thank you. Safe travels.
Thanks.
Hey, it's Thomas Mulready from CoolCleveland.com. Have a great week in cool Cleveland.